Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to Woo Can Cook. My name is Wesley, and this is a show where we are slowly cooking our way through all of the food from my childhood. Today we're diving back into the wonderful, weird world of Asian fusion cuisine with a shot at a sweet and savory chili crisp chocolate chip cookie. Not too long ago, a few months back, Eric Kim and the New York Times released a now viral recipe for a gochujang caramel cookie, wherein the Korean fermented chili paste is swirled into the cookie dough to create the sweet, spicy fermented cookie that is now popping up all over the internet. As many others were, I was absolutely fascinated by this concept, and it led me to think, what else can we put in a cookie? And here we are. So, for our version today, we're going to start with a fairly straightforward chocolate chip cookie dough recipe, combined with a handful of relatively unusual savory elements, including a bit of Chinese five spice and, of course, chili oil, to yield a cookie that is simultaneously both sweet, savory, and spicy all at once. To pair with all of this, we'll be making use of our house-made chili crisp oil from the Woo Can Cook pop-up to yield for us, in my opinion, a more fragrant and more spice-forward final result than what we'd end up with if we used the jarred stuff. Okay, so let's get into it.
In my head, thinking that I've always dreamed of. So what's the difference when the world burns down on its own and baby, can I be honest?
Okay, so diving right in, as you might notice, we're starting off here with a pretty straightforward chocolate chip cookie dough recipe with a handful of small tweaks. I've got my largest mixing bowl here over a gram scale so that we may begin by weighing out our dry ingredients. This is 185 grams of AP flour to start, followed by 150 grams of chocolate chips. As always with baking, accuracy in our measurements is absolutely key today. Next up, this is a half teaspoon of baking soda going in for a bit of leavening, followed finally by a full cup of white sugar. Moving on, we're diving into our savory additions next, starting off with some aromatic spices. In a more typical cookie dough recipe, you may expect a shake of something like nutmeg or cinnamon at this point. In lieu of this though, we're instead going with a quarter teaspoon of Chinese five spice. Five spice at its core does include cinnamon in its blend, which is great, but it also includes some more savory-leaning aromatics as well, namely a bit of star anise and Sichuan peppercorn, which is going to be a nice savory aromatic addition to our dough today. Finally, rounding this out at long last, here's our chili oil. This is going to be a single tablespoon, but we are very specifically looking to include only the solids of our chili crisp oil at this point. As I mentioned earlier, this is our house-made chili oil that we sell from the Woo Can Cook pop-up. For those looking, we also did a quick review on how to make this stuff in our dandan mian recipe here. For those that don't feel like making their own chili oil today though, you can absolutely make use of the jarred stuff, but I will tell you that our chili oil is a little bit less salty and a little bit more heat-forward than most other jarred chili oils that I've come across. Finally, I'm mixing these solids up until thoroughly combined, then setting this all aside while we dive into our wet ingredients next. Alright, up next here I have a single stick or 1/2 cup of unsalted butter before me. I'm starting off here by removing just 1 tablespoon of this stick and setting it aside for a moment, then taking the remaining 7 tablespoons, adding it to a heat-proof bowl, and microwaving for 1 minute until liquefied, like so. Next, we're adding our now melted butter to a mixing bowl, then combining with a teaspoon of vanilla extract and a single egg. But before we add our egg here, we're pausing for a moment and making sure that this butter is cool to the touch first. Remember, eggs are very delicate, and if you add your eggs while that butter is still boiling hot, you'll have some scrambled eggs on your hands, which is not good. In any case, I'm whisking this all to combine, then adding in my dry ingredients so that we may begin kneading our dough for 2 to 3 minutes until a cohesive dough forms, like so. Next up, we're setting aside our cookie dough for a moment while we whisk up a quick chili oil buttercream. Now, the key to what we're trying to achieve here is not too dissimilar to Eric Kim's gochujang cookie, wherein we're going to whisk up our chili oil cream separately so that we may swirl it into our dough, giving us some nice red pops of color. So, going into my mixing bowl here is my reserved 1 tablespoon of butter to start, followed by what ended up being 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, and finally 4 tablespoons or a quarter cup of our chili oil. Now, again, as with before, we're going with just the oil this time, so no solids in our cream. Then next, I'm whisking this all up to combine until a nice thick cream forms, then adding this in dollops to our dough and gently folding it all together. I'm being very careful at this point not to overmix my dough because we want our chili oil cream to have nice independent presence to our cookies. If we overmix, we'll lose that contrast of color. Finally, I'm using an ice cream scoop to add our dough balls to a parchment paper lined sheet tray, about 6 at a time, then baking at 350 degrees F for 11 to 13 minutes until golden brown, and we're ready to eat. Okay, so full disclosure, I'll be the first to admit I would have liked to achieve a little bit more color contrast in the swirl of our cookies here, although I do think that we still have a decent bit of color going on. I'll stress again here, this is why we want to be careful not to overmix that chili oil butter into our dough. All this said, I do think that the inclusion of our chili crisp solids is also a nice addition to the texture of the cookie and complements the chocolate chips really nicely. Each bite gives us the sweet and buttery goodness that we're all expecting from a chocolate chip cookie, with a nice pop of heat from our chili crisp for a fun bit of capsaicin. To compare, I have had the New York Times gochujang cookie a few times, and I can tell you that that recipe leans a little bit harder into the natural sweetness that you're already getting from the gochujang, leaving the actual heat of the chili paste a bit more in the background of the snickerdoodle. By contrast, our chili crisp in this recipe is very much forward and present in our cookies, which gives them a nice kick in the pants. I think for me, the most similar tasting experience that I can think of is something like a jalapeno margarita, where the sweet, savory, and heat elements are all very much working together with your palate, which I love. Okay, so that's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you give this one a shot. For those who are new to the channel, this one is part of a larger series dedicated to fusion recipes, so definitely check out that series next because there's a lot of these. For the Bay Area locals, the Woo Can Cook Fried Rice Pop-Up is now at Wonders Brewing in Emeryville every Thursday through Sunday, so come by and say hi then if you can. More about that at woocancook.com/eats. Also, a fun update, we've got t-shirts. I'm super excited to be partnering with my good friends at Pollywog Prints to make these super sweet Woo Can Cook t-shirts. They're super soft and comfortable and also have a picture of me on the back, which is crazy. We're selling these at the Woo Can Cook pop-up at Wonders Brewing, or you can head over to woocancook.com/shop to grab one of these from the online store too. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, be nice interneters, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
'Cause I got this shit, I'm lost in crowd. And where do I belong when I'm lost in a crowd? And tell me, baby, do you ever feel the shadow? Do you